first love, forever. Within 2 days, they signed marriage papers at the registrar's office. No rituals, no guests, just 2 witnesses and a love that burned too bright to wait. That night, he cooked instant noodles. She laughed through tears. "This is our wedding feast," she said, feeding him with her hands. Author Shri.
Rajeev Shantalam Thatte.
The eyes that met Amiya Deshmukh was a name few in Mumbai had heard, but those who knew him remembered his eyes, deep brown, filled with sincerity. He lived in a modest chawal in Dadar, in a one-room kitchen flat with peeling plaster and an ever-flickering tube light. At 23, he worked as a delivery executive for a logistics company. His income was humble, his dreams grand. He often scribbled poetry between deliveries, capturing the beauty of the mundane in verses that never saw print. One rainy afternoon, he delivered a package to an upscale building in Bandra. As he rang the bell, the door opened to reveal a girl whose beauty could pause time. She wore a loose kurta, hair in a messy bun, spectacles slipping down her nose. "My book?" she asked with a half smile. It was a collection of classic poetry. Amiya responded with a quote from it. Surprised and delighted, she invited him for a cup of tea. That was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, they met frequently. She was Ananya Shah, daughter of a real estate tycoon, studying literature and suffocated by her high society life. Amiya was a breath of real air. An unlikely marriage. As their meetings grew frequent, so did the risks. Ananya's family noticed her absences, the decline in her interest in arranged meetings. One day, over coffee at a roadside stall, she looked Amiya in the eye and said, "Let's get married." Now, he blinked, unsure if she was serious. "I want a life that feels true," she whispered. Within 2 days, they signed marriage papers at the registrar's office. No rituals, no guests, just 2 witnesses and a love that burned too bright to wait. She packed a small bag, left a note at home, and entered Amiya's one-room home. That night, he cooked instant noodles. She laughed through tears. "This is our wedding feast," she said, feeding him with her hands. Struggles of a new life. In the early days, love was their roof and togetherness their comfort. They made a home with second-hand curtains and a borrowed gas stove. Ananya tried to adjust. She washed her own clothes, fetched water from the tap downstairs, and made rotis that turned out burnt but edible. Amiya, working overtime, would return home to her sleepy smile. But reality seeped in slowly. The noise of the neighborhood, the lack of space, the constant struggle for money. These weren't things she was prepared for. She had left behind a life of chauffeurs and charcuterie for one of rickety fans and ration rice. Though Amiya kept reassuring her, guilt and frustration began to cloud her. Cracks and quiet 3 months in, the cracks began to appear. Ananya grew quiet. She missed long baths, air conditioning, and conversations about books and art. The smell of frying onions clung to her clothes. The neighbors' quarrels became a daily soundtrack. She began spending more time indoors, barely speaking. Ameya noticed. He tried to cheer her up, surprise dinners, poetry readings, holding her hand under the mosquito net. But her silence deepened. When he suggested a walk, she declined. When he spoke of the future, she looked away. He still loved her with the same intensity, but he realized that she was drifting beyond his reach. The final embrace 1 year after their marriage, on a cold January morning, Ananya sat at the edge of the bed, wrapped in a shawl. She looked fragile, yet determined. "I can't do this anymore. Ameya," she whispered. "I'm dying inside." He sat beside her, gently holding her hand. "I love you," he said, voice trembling. "I know," she replied, tears rolling down. "That's what makes this so hard." They filed for mutual divorce. On the day of the hearing, she cried throughout the proceeding. When the judge asked if the decision was mutual, Ameya nodded with tears in his eyes. She couldn't stop sobbing. As they walked out of the court, she kissed his hand one last time and said, "Thank you for loving me the way no one else ever will." Glimpses of gold. Within 6 months, Ananya's return to her old world was complete. She reconnected with her family and soon married Amir Raina, a wealthy film producer. Their wedding was on every magazine cover. Amir was generous, worldly, and showered her with jewels, imported cars, and a penthouse suite with a sea view. But in the silence of a walk-in closet, she kept a tiny box with a cheap gold ring, the one Ameya gave her on their first Diwali. No one knew about it. Each time she held it, memories would flood back. Their small kitchen, shared dreams, and the rawness of that first love. The show and the shadow to the world, she was Mrs. Ananya Amir Raina, elegant, poised, powerful. She smiled at parties, posed for photographs, hosted galas. But within her, a part remained untouched, sacred. She never spoke Ameya's name aloud, but every time she saw a boy on a bike with a delivery bag, her heart would race. Her marriage with Amir was comfortable, even kind, but it lacked the fire of that 1 year in the Chawal, the year she had felt most alive. She played her role well, but in her solitude, she would read Ameya's old poems from memory, finding herself in the lines. A glimpse from afar. One rainy evening, Ananya's car halted at a signal in Andheri. Outside, a man crossed the road holding a child's hand, smiling and soaked. It was Ameya. Her breath caught. He looked older, more settled. The child wasn't his, perhaps a friend's. But the calm on his face shook her. He didn't see her. She didn't call out. As the signal turned green, her car moved forward. She closed her eyes, whispering, "I'm glad you're okay." Forever in a frame. Years later, Ananya sat in her study, sipping wine. On the wall were framed portraits, one with Amir at a Cannes event, another from their wedding. But hidden behind a thick curtain, in a private drawer, was a small photograph, her and Amia, laughing over a simple meal taken with a Polaroid camera. She never showed it to anyone. It was her secret sanctuary. She had moved on in life, but never in heart. Love, she realized, wasn't about lasting forever. It was about being real, even if only for a while.